Jean Piaget discovered the 4 stages of cognitive development: sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. Our research project focuses on Piaget's pre-operational stage. This stage usually takes place in children from the age of 2 to 6 or 7. While in this toddler stage, children are too young to perform mental operations, like imagining an action or mentally reversing it. They typically lack the concept of conservation, meaning they think quantity does not remain the same despite changes in the shape. Piaget also found that toddlers tend to possess signs of egocentrism. They find it difficult to take another's point of view. Therefore, we hypothesize that 80% of kindergarten and pre-K students will lack the principle of conservation and will display egocentrism.
Piaget studied the presence of egocentrism and conservation through many experiments.
One of the experiments that he dealt with for testing conservation involved 2 beakers with the same amount of water or colored liquid in them, and then he asked a kid in the pre-operational stage which one had more, when they really had the same. Then in front of the kid he was testing the experiment on, he poured the 1 beaker into a taller glass and then asked the kid which one had more.
He also conducted an experiment called the 3 Mountains Task, where he created a 3D model of 3 different mountains and placed the child in the pre-operational stage at an opposite end of the table. He moved the mountain around and asked how many different mountains they could see at each angle. Depending on the number that the children provided him with, determined whether they were to be considered egocentric.
Children in the pre-operational stage lack the idea of conservation, meaning they are unable to identify things based on their size or quantity. For instance, here, any child would agree that the 2 cups have equal amounts of water in them. However, if one of those glasses were to be poured into a smaller glass, a child would point to the taller glass if they were asked which one has more water in it, simply because it is taller. They would not be able to comprehend that they are still the same amount of water in each cup. Bethany, which glass has more water in it? Children in the pre-operational stage also possess egocentrism, meaning they cannot see things from others' perspectives. For example, when a child is playing hide and seek, it is common for them to just cover up their eyes. A child believes that what they cannot see, others cannot see as well.
We conducted an experiment on kids in the pre-operational phase, which is 3 through 7, and we tested them for egocentrism and conservation. And to make sure their results were confidential, we stored them in a safe place, and we also sent home consent forms for all the parents. We conducted our experiment on a typical school day after the kids had lunch with permission of the teachers. Once our data is recorded and analyzed, we're going to dispose of all the result sheets to keep the confidentiality of the students safe. Since we're dealing with smaller children, it's really important to consider ethics when we're doing our experiments. So, for the children's sake and for their parents' sake, we sent home consent forms where we explained the details of our experiment and all the problems that they could come across, like dizziness or feeling like their answers are wrong, or maybe hesitation to answer correctly, although we don't consider their individual responses as much as we do the whole entirety of the experiment. And additionally, we also sent out these video consent forms that we would have their parents sign as well, and they also detailed exactly what we intended to do if they allowed us to videotape them, and we wanted to make sure that they were all okay with that. For the teachers, we sent our proposals in so that they could read that over and they'd know exactly what was going on in their classroom, because that's extremely important for them to know what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be performing it. And we also are making ourselves available. At the bottom of the consent forms and the video consent forms, we put in our emails for the parents if they wanted to contact us. And we also put Mr. Womack's name and any other identifying information so they can have a hold of us and we can help them understand better or explain things that they might have questions about.
We came in 2 different sessions to test 31 kids from Gurney Elementary School who are in the pre-operational stage.
Hi Bethany, my name is Allie and we're going to do a little experiment today. So, first off I want you to tell me, between these two rows, are they the same or is one longer than the other?
The same.
The same? Okay. Now I want you to make a few adjustments here. Okay, now, are the two rows the same or is one bigger than the other?
This one's bigger.
That one's bigger? Okay, thank you. Okay, Bethany, so we're going to do another experiment, and I'm going to turn the box so you can see each side of the box, and then just mentally take note of each picture. There's that one. This one. That one. Okay, so I'm going to mix it up. Now, which picture do you see?
An airplane.
Airplane? Okay. Now, do you think I see the same picture or a different picture?
The same.
Okay. Very good.
Our group discovered two separate p-values, one from our conservation and one from our egocentrism results. Overall, 64% of children showed signs of conservation, slightly different from our expected 80%, giving us a p-value of 0.15.
In addition to our other p-value about conservation, our results about egocentrism led us to receive a p-value of 0.004. Although we received two different values, we failed to reject our null hypothesis that 80% of children in the pre-operational stage in the Chagrin Falls School District lack the concept of conservation and additionally possess egocentrism. Our group tested 31 students in the pre-operational stage. We estimated that 80% of them would lack conservation and show signs of egocentrism. In our conclusion, we found that 64% of them lacked conservation, so slightly off from our hypothesis. However, we estimated that only 20% of them would not show signs of egocentrism. However, we found that 96% of them did not show signs of egocentrism. Therefore, our hypothesis was slightly more supportive of lacking conservation than it was to showing egocentrism.
In our experiment, we found that there were a lot of confounding variables that happened. We noticed that some of the kids felt a little bit scared to be working with older kids, so that was one, and also not fully understanding the questions we were asking came up a lot. A lot of the kids wanted to seem like smart, so they would answer differently than what they might have thought was the correct answer. There were some distractions going on in the classroom because it was right after lunch and they were pretty energetic. They wanted to do it quickly, also goes back to going along with how they wanted to seem smart, answering quickly, and also since they were very young they had very short attention spans, so we had to do it in a fast manner.
Our group encountered many confounding variables in regards to our conservation study. For example, sometimes we did not evenly spread out the pennies. In this instance, for example, a child may think the rows are now a row of 3 and a row of 5 rather than 2 rows of 5 spread out.
If we could do this project over, I think we would have gotten a little bit better results. First of all, if we had used a different egocentrism question, I think it would have really helped if we did something more along the lines of playing hide and seek with the kids, because it would have used like a real life example in a fun way, whereas when we did the box experiment it was a little bit confusing and didn't really get the results we were expecting. Another thing we would change is we would have one group member per kid to avoid intimidation. And we thought that going in earlier in the day would be better because we went in after lunch and the kids were pretty energetic and not really focused. Also, we would want to get a bigger sample and get to do the experiment in more classes so we could see a wider range of results.
Thanks again to all the teachers who let us conduct our study in their classrooms.